All right, I've got an awesome podcast for you hoop heads out there. LeBron going to the Lakers. Now everyone is focused on the summer of 2019. There's an incredible list of NBA free agents that are going to be available next summer. You got Kyrie Irving, Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, Jimmy Butler, Marc Gasol. The list goes on. And you know who's one of those teams looking to make a splash next summer? The New York Knicks. I had to get the New York Post's Marc Berman on. He's the New York Knicks beat reporter for the Post to talk about the summer of 2019, talk about the great summer that Kevin Knox has had. We talk also about his career. It's a fun podcast. I hope you like it. Terrific Talk starts right now.
Terrific Talk Podcast. Welcome back, Terrific Talk Podcast.
Here comes the host.
I'm your host, Tom Anderson.
First, behind the back. It gets to Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Knicks win it.
Welcome to Terrific Talk. I'm Tom Anderson. Stormy day here from the Hoboken Studios in New Jersey. Thanks for checking the podcast out. My guest today, Marc Berman, covers the New York Knicks for the New York Post. He's been covering the Knicks there for more than 2 decades. In addition to covering the Knicks, he also covers the U.S. Open and tennis. He's got a lot of great experience, and I'm excited to have him on today. Let me bring him in here. Marc Berman, welcome to Terrific Talk.
Hey, Tom. Thanks for having me on.
So take us back. Where are you from? Where did your love of sports come from?
Yeah, I'm from Rockaway Beach, Queens, and, I played high school tennis, but, I was really into the media back to high school, sports editor of the school newspaper, and wrote for a couple of the local weeklies in Rockaway, including the Rockaway Wave, covering the Beach Channel high school sports. I went to college, although at Albany State, it's a journalism minor. It's a great city to learn the craft of journalism, and I was sports editor of the student newspaper, the Albany Student Press, and there's like 3 or 4 newspapers in the Capital District, and I had a couple of internships for the Times Union and the Troy Record, and so I made my professional start in Albany, graduating and working for a small paper, the Troy Record, a daily paper in Troy, New York, that covered the Capital Region. So, I've always been into sports, but always also into the media end of it.
Yeah, it sounds like you got into the media at a pretty young age. What really drew you towards it?
Well, I guess it is the love of sports, and if you're not going to be a professional athlete, the next best thing is to write about it and broadcast about it. I did radio in college for WCDB, the radio station for the university, and even in high school there was a little radio show, half-hour radio show that we did. So I was drawn to journalism and the media through my love of sports, and it was always a passion, and I always knew what I wanted to do, and I think that's important for young kids who want to get into the field. I get a lot of emails from kids, and they're not sure, like sports management or public relations, and I was never into that, and I never wanted to be a general manager or anything. I mean, it was always about the media.
What's the best piece of advice that you can give young aspiring reporters out there?
Just read a lot, and it's so easy to do that nowadays with the web. Back in the day, I'm in college, and I'm on the newsstand in Albany buying the Boston Globe that was sold in Albany. The Boston Globe, to me, had one of the greatest sports sections in the 1980s with a columnist called Lee Montville. But I was always reading out-of-town newspapers, and back in the 80s, as a youngster, that was difficult. If I was in another city on vacation, I would always make sure to buy the out-of-town, the local paper wherever I was. But now in this age, you got your little laptop computer or even your iPhone, and you can read a lot. Try to read the established legacy journalists. I think there's a lot of blogs out there that coming out of the newspapers, and even, obviously the Athletic stole a lot of the great sports writers around the country, so that's a good website to read. But reading is so important, and not just sports. Try to buy the Sunday Times and read all the sections. It takes me all week to read it, but reading is so important, and reporting is difficult because your sources now are dealing with so many more journalists than when I started out. So, an agent used to deal with maybe a couple of writers from New York or 3 writers from New York. Now he's dealing with 30 journalists from around the country from every website there is. So it's important to establish connections with people you feel can help you deliver information.
That's really an interesting point. If you're a young, guy or girl trying to get into the business and you want to establish these connections, what kind of advice do you have about going in on that with all these other well-established journalists who have relationships with these people?
It's a very tough question, and I think nowadays it's kind of a dilemma. With these agents, they'll represent, say, 10 players, and I think it's almost like in this world of journalism, if I could help you, you could help me, and if a source helps you, then maybe you'll give the benefit of the doubt to that player. But one of my things at the New York Post is we're very critical of everyone, and if an athlete or a New York Knick is not performing well, I mean, even though the agent I have a good relationship with, I have to call the player out in the press, and that's the biggest. It's the biggest conflict a journalist faces is having to write negative stuff, knowing it's going to hurt some people that really help you out off the record. And the advice I would give a journalist is to try to be true to the reader, and he's really the most important person, the reader, he or she. And as much as you want to, not help your sources, but, not burn your sources, you still have to be true to the reader, and you have to write the truth. And if the truth is negative, you just have to do it. And hopefully with your skill, you can still establish your sources. You can still maintain your sources even if you're printing the truth.
All right, quick break to talk about Lightstream. So I'm moving soon, and I've got a lot of big expenses coming up. I got to pay for movers, I got to buy new furniture. There's a lot going on, and I'm looking for easy ways to save some money. Lightstream's got me covered. Lightstream Online Lending offers loans for auto, home improvement, and practically anything else at low rates for those with good credit. They offer loans from $5,000 to $100,000. You can choose your funding date as soon as today. It's a great service and very easy to use, and today my listeners get an additional interest rate discount on top of Lightstream's already low rates. The only way to get this discount is to go to lightstream.com/terrific. That's Lightstream, lightstream.com/terrific, TERRIFIC. Go check out Lightstream today. Subject to credit approval, rate includes 0.5% auto pay discount. Terms and conditions apply, and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com for more information. How did your first job at the New York Post come about?
Well, I was at the Time Child Record in Orange County. I was covering the Giants, I think. Back then, the Time Child Record had a nice budget. It's a daily newspaper in the Hudson Valley region, Orange County, Ulster County, Sullivan County, but they had a small New York City bureau, and I was doing the Giants. I had done the Jets maybe the year before, and I guess the Islander job opened. It was 1997, I believe, and I interviewed, and the Time Child Record had been something of a pipeline for the New York Post. Paul Schwartz and Thomas Hill had advanced from the Time Child Seinfeld records, New York Euro, to the Post. So, I interviewed, and I grew up right on the border of Long Island, but I grew up a gigantic Islanders fan.
Nice.
Was a kid during the glory days, and the Islanders job was open, and I knew everything. There's not a lot of, back then, hockey was sort of a niche sport, and not a whole lot of people wanted to cover hockey, perhaps, and my passion for the Islanders was very clear to the sports editor, Greg Gallo, and I got the job.
Worked out perfectly. Quick Knicks talk. Knicks fans, a lot of my friends, are getting very excited about Kevin Knox and a Porzingis tandem when KP gets back healthy. What's impressed you about Kevin Knox's summer league performance here?
Yeah, well, in Kentucky, he obviously was a little inconsistent and had some defensive issues. And that's why maybe a week or 2 weeks before the draft, he was still considered a very late lottery pick, maybe in the 14-15 range. But what's impressed a lot of GMs and scouts at the Summer League was he looked like a different player, like very aggressive, taking the ball to the basket. He's obviously super athletic and had some incredible dunks. But I think in Kentucky they have so many good, nice pieces that, he wasn't the alpha that he looked like in Summer League. He was just not a role player, but I think Shea Alexander, the point guard for Kentucky, controlled the ball a lot. And in this offense with Fizdale, Knox looked like he could be a number one option. Even when the season starts, if Porzingis won't be healthy at the start. So the point is, he looks like he's going to be a number one guy one day. He's 18 years old, and in his 20s, I wouldn't be surprised if he's an all-star, and you could see it. He was very aggressive, as opposed to a Mikal Bridges who had a nice summer league, and his stats were probably, very nice shooting percentage, but he's going to be more of a very good role player and not a star. And Kevin Knox looked like a future star, and it was only 4 games, and he's thin, but so is Kevin Durant, and he's going to put on weight, and he's got the offense that's suited for him.
It'll be interesting to see how it works out. He should get a lot of good reps, though, this season. Now that LeBron signed with the Lakers, everyone's now focusing on the summer of 2019. You got KD, Kyrie, a lot of Knicks rumors kind of percolating around here. What are the Knicks doing to potentially land one of these big franchise guys?
Well, they've set up their payroll to have most likely enough cap space to sign a maximum star. But that doesn't mean they're going to get one.
Yeah.
I think the Knicks have to hedge their bets, and that's why they've been talking up Hazonia as a potential long-term guy. But the thing with 2019 is the Knicks aren't the only team that's going to have maximum cap space. Every team, it seems, is gunning for that free agent class. It's a great one, headed by Durant. Kyrie Irving obviously has New York connections. There's Jimmy Butler. There's Leonard. Depending on where he is traded to, he could easily want to sign with another team in 2019. They signed they're in the free agency. They decided we're just giving 1-year deals, and they gave it to Hazonia, and they're protecting their space, and they're not moving forward on a Porzingis contract extension right now because they still have to protect 2019 cap space. And they're trying to trade Courtney Lee, whose contract goes into 2020, and it's no easy task because he's 33. He's probably on the downside of his career, and teams don't want to take on long-term contracts because everyone wants that free agent class. So the Knicks are going to have a lot of competition, including from their neighbor in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Brooklyn might have space for 2 stars, and Kyrie Irving and Jimmy Butler are said to want to play together, and that's where that's not great news for the Knicks, because it's going to be hard to open up enough cap space for 2 stars. Tim Hardaway would have to be dealt, and maybe some other stuff. Noah I'm pretty sure, will be stretched under the salary cap rules on September 1st. They'll get some cap savings there. But the Knicks are eyeing 2019, but who knows? They could get shut out.
Who knows? My dad's a big Nets fan, Brooklyn Nets fan. He keeps talking about Kyrie and Jimmy Butler wanting to play together, so we'll see.
Yeah, that would if that's they're adamant about that, and Kyrie loves Brooklyn. I mean, Kyrie loves this area and could see this as a challenge to put the Nets back on the map because I feel they've lost fans instead of gained fans.
Yeah,
since moving to Brooklyn.
Agree.
I think that's a possibility.
Last question here. Coach Fizdale, you mentioned his first season here with the Knicks, kind of known as a player's coach, aside from the Marc Gasol kind of stuff. What should Knicks fans expect to see from Coach Fizdale this year?
I'm so impressed with the way he connects with the players, the young players. He's got a great personality, very charismatic. He's so optimistic with us when he talks to the press. I almost feel that Memphis made a bad mistake in giving up on him so quickly after one season and 1 month. Even though, Marc Gasol is going to be a free agent in 2019. I didn't mention his name because the Knicks have no shot with Fizdale there.
Right.
But I think Fizdale has a very inventive mind when it comes to offense, and he's one of the first people who had the concept of positionless basketball. Back with the Miami team, he convinced Spoelstra to have Chris Bosh play some point forward. Listen, it's not completely new. Mike D'Antoni has sort of been doing positionless basketball for many years, but he had Nash at the point. So, Fizdale's very creative, and he wants a fast pace, and we saw it in Las Vegas. They really want to run, and I just want to see them play defense. He's got a reputation. He talks a big game about defense. I want to see how good they are on the defensive end. That's been such a eyesore for the Knicks, and the Knicks had that reputation in the 90s and the 70s of being a great defensive team with the Garden rocking with a chance of defense. I want to see Fizdale turn this team into a good defensive club. He talks a big game again, but the proof is on the court.
It's a great point. It looks like the Knicks are doing all the right things. Marc, this was great. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast today. Everybody check Marc out on Twitter. His handle is at NYPost_Berman. Go read him in the New York Post. Marc, thanks again.
Oh,